Welcome to the Trump Tyranny Tracker on day 106. It's good to be with you. I'm Shalev from narrative.org with Olga Lautman, the creator and incredible author of the Trump Tyranny Tracker, which you're all probably subscribed to because you're all here. And it's nice to have you here. Olga, how are you doing today?
Good. I feel like the Trump Tyranny Tracker needs to be renamed to Tyranny to Hell Tracker.
I love that it comes down to TTT because that's really easy to remember. So hey, and it's TTT at 2:00. So it's like 4 T's in a row right there.
And there you go.
We're just going to wait for some people to gather in. But, we wanted to talk a little bit about Mark Carney's.
Let's start with your coverage because I know you've been on it all morning.
Yeah, we were live with Dean for a long time earlier on, Dean Blundell, looking at Carney's press conference at the Oval Office with Donald Trump. And it was a really interesting exercise in patience, I think, by Mark Carney, but some really good lines that Mark Carney delivered in an underhand way that Trump will probably only realize later on. And people can check that out at narrative.org or on Dean Blundell's Substack, and they can see all our coverage there. Plus, we'll be back at 3:00 with more of that. So that's coming up later. But a lot's happening in the world of Trump tyranny tracking, and the biggest story that comes out in the last 24 hours is one that I think really needs a lot of attention to around the Venezuelan assessment of the Venezuelan gangs. Trump, as I just got to find, a newly declassified intelligence memo has revealed that the U.S. spy agencies do not believe that Venezuela's government controls the Tren de Aragua gang. This directly contradicts Trump's justification for invoking the whole Aliens Enemy Act that he's been using in order to deport Venezuelans without due process. He's been sending them to El Salvador, to a place that's largely described as a gulag. And the Washington Post reporting indicates that this manufactured national security threat is serving as a test case for claiming unchecked executive power. Now, it's really interesting. Tell us a lot more about what's happening here and why this assessment is so difficult for Trump.
I'll take that assessment because Washington Post would never be that bold to actually say what is happening.
Okay.
But yes. So to begin with, any dictator needs to manufacture an emergency. I mean, I can't even count the number of emergencies Putin manufactured, in order to basically quash dissent and to expand his powers and whatnot. And here we have, Trump claimed, signed an emergency order that is unlawful to disappear migrants based on the Alien Enemies Act, claiming that we're under an invasion. Well, surprise, surprise, our intelligence agencies basically say that there is no invasion, that Maduro is not in control of Tren de Aragua, the gang, that this is not, a foreign government operation. And that's it. And it basically, shows that his whole premise of creating a national emergency and invoking this rarely used act that was actually used during wars is bullshit, and I mean, we had a Trump appointed judge basically call it out last week that it's unlawful. And now here we have the U.S. intelligence agencies telling us that no, Maduro has not sent anyone to invade us. No, he has no control over these gangs. These are pocket of, criminal gangs, as we have our own. And that's it.
We've got to underline this is such an important thing. Of course, Trump's entire deportation policy is based on this idea that he can declare these gangs as being enemy invaders of another country. And if even the intelligence agencies that serve this president are saying that's not the case, you don't have the justification to say that these alleged gang members, they're not even gang members, they're alleged gang members with very little proof. Yeah, that you don't even.
That was sent to a gulag with no
people with tattoos do not signify gang membership always, and certainly the fact that the intelligence community is telling Donald Trump that he doesn't have the justification actually takes away the support that he has for this entire deportation policy, his whole big immigration push, his whole big we're going to send people away. It just takes out all the underpinning of that, and it's a really dramatic moment, which leaves him with his own administration, his own spies, his own best intelligence services saying absolutely you cannot continue to use this as justification, and it leaves everybody in a bit of limbo right now, right? Doesn't it? Because you've got people in El Salvador. You've got other people that are waiting to be deported. This looks like it's been a complete disaster yet again.
And I mean, then we'll see, because as with how, any dictator acts, the people behind this report, I'm sure, will be purged,
Right.
because they actually put out, real information, not propaganda.
Mhm.
Um, and that's it. And I mean, this goes to a bigger picture that every single thing that Trump is doing, whether it's, grabbing international students off the streets, or disappearing migrants, arresting U.S. citizens and not giving them due process,
Mhm.
until they have to go and prove that they are U.S. citizens. He's doing all of this under emergency orders. And
Mhm.
the reason he's using these emergency orders is for power grab and to
Yeah.
expand his
And
powers.
that's such an important thing. You keep pointing it out. You pointed out for months is that the dictators do these kind of things. They create these events. They create these emergencies in order to give them the pretext to do these actions. And that's exactly what's happened here,
And
obviously.
just a very 5-second real world example. I remember in St. Petersburg, there were people coming out against Putin. And I must have been, I don't, maybe 2017, 2018. People were coming out against Putin, and he traveled there. And then suddenly there's a terrorist attack
Right.
in the St. Petersburg train station. Of course, we know who did it, FSB. And they used this as a national emergency to basically put a crackdown on anyone, on all gatherings, to stop any kind of public gatherings. So this is just a perfect use of how emergency powers can be used to silence, dissent.
And you've been saying it for months now, really, literally. So let's move on to the second story, which is all about how Donald Trump is enriching himself with crypto. We spoke about that yesterday, but in an alarming new development, this is by the New York Times today, or yesterday, I think, a struggling logistics firm called Freight Technologies has announced plans to purchase up to $20 million in Trump tokens. That's the crypto coin that's named after Trump. The company that's valued at $4.8 million explicitly tied this investment to influencing U.S. trade policy with Mexico. I mean, it's ludicrous. They buy these coins and they basically are doing it as a bribe out in the open. The CEO openly stated their intent to leverage these tokens purchases for political access, as Trump has promised private dinners to top token holders. This represents obviously a bribe, a pay-to-play scheme. So what do you make of this incredible act by this company called Freight Technologies?
Well, for starters, just using simple math, how did the company worth 4.8 million decide to invest 20 million
Yeah.
into a token, a Trump token? Um, and who actually is paying
Who
interest?
actually is?
I don't think it's the freight company if they're
Yeah.
worth 4.8 million. I mean, unless they really wanna reprogram their, hey, quote, forecast for the next decade. But that goes back to a bigger picture. I mean, Trump is for sale. He's made it very clear. Yesterday, as this news was coming out, he was hosting a 1.5 million per head dinner for crypto and AI peeps. I mean, he made it clear, and the bottom line is he feels so emboldened. And this, I mean, I've always written about Russia, and my main focus is Russia. When you see the Russians, act like this, like so blatantly, it's because they're emboldened. And here you have a president who feels so emboldened, he doesn't have to bother hiding that, he's having dinners and charging $1.5 million per head for access to him, or that his sons are getting $2 billion from UAE via crypto, or the 10 million other things that are happening via crypto from foreign and domestic sources. So, I mean, this goes to the bigger point that the first term, he still attempted to kind of hide these things, deny these things. This time, he doesn't even bother. He doesn't care. And he's telling the American public, I am here to basically, while I gut the government, make sure that all of you are sick and unemployed and have no health insurance and have nothing, I am going to become the wealthiest person on this planet.
It's
I
so
mean, that's
blatant, but these crimes that are happening out in the open, and then at the same time, Trump is in an unprecedented move. He's ordering the Department of Justice to intervene in the case of
yeah.
the ex-Mesa County clerk Tina Peters, calling her a political prisoner. So he has someone who actually committed a crime, another person who's committed a crime that he calls a political prisoner. What she did, she faced multiple felony charges for tampering with election systems. And Trump calls her imprisonment a cruel and unusual punishment. So this is how he's committing crimes on the one hand himself, and this is what he thinks about people who are committing crimes. He just wants them, because they're loyal to him, to be removed, to have their to be freed with the DOJ's help. Tell us about the story.
So, as he's weaponizing the Department of Justice to go after Harvard and to go after, Chris Krebs and all his opponents, at the same time, he's using it to shield his allies. Tina Peters was a big election denier, but she took it a step further than, just spreading election conspiracy garbage. She allowed another QAnon conspiracy extremist, gave him access to the voting machines, and allowed him to copy sensitive data. She was prosecuted on the state level for this. The only one who actually served anything for, this whole stop to the steal nonsense and Trump's schemes to overthrow the 2020 election. She's the only person who actually has faced accountability out of the probably 100 that were involved. And here Trump is directing the Department of Justice to intervene in a state case. And then at the same time calling her a political prisoner and whatnot. I mean, it just shows you, this is comparable to the insurrection, how yesterday we recapped how Trump saw Enrique Tarrio and basically, former head of Proud Boys, and said, "Oh, we love you guys," after pardoning all these criminals
So wrong.
and insurrectionists. So, I mean, it's outrageous. But again, the bigger point is he's weaponizing U.S. tax-funded agencies for his own political purposes.
And we have time for one more story today, which is about Hexath. The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hexath, has ordered a 20% cut in four-star officers. It looks like yet another extension of this purge of military leadership. They've already gotten rid of so many of the leadership there, and now another 20% are going, according to the New York Times. Hexath has already gutted leadership positions, firing many women and also people of color, while framing these removals as fighting wokeness. Critics view this as a political purge, and of course, it really is a political purge. How else could it be? Because the military is not really on Trump's side right now.
And the thing is, for any dictator to have full power, they need to take full control of the military. We already see Trump expanding the powers of the military by allowing them to operate on U.S. soil along the border, which is frankly extremely dangerous and should really scare everyone. Like, everyone should be calling their Congress people, screaming about this. But this is what's happening. They're taking out 20% of, the top tier. And basically, they want to remove career officials so they can install nut jobs, loyalists, yes
Crazy.
men. And this is exactly, again, what happens in Russia and any dictatorship, because the military um, is the only instrument and challenge, besides the people, of course, to a dictator. So the dictator always has to have full control of the
Right.
military, and we're watching this happen in front of our eyes.
In real time. And of course, that consolidation of the military is the one thing probably that's standing in between Trump right now and complete control, because he really needs the military. If there ever is an uprising or anything like that, he'll need the military to quell that. Right now, the military is not with him, but keeps making these moves. It seems like they're aggressively wanting to clean up or clean out at least the top ranks of the military in order to replace them with people that can suppress revolts. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So when we talk about the 6-month period or whatever it is that there's a tipping point when democracies can't be reclaimed after dictators take power. Well, this is one of those things you look for, is a complete control of the military. And they look like they're heading into that very, very clearly.
Yeah.
It's,
Just to
yeah,
add, yeah, I mean, mainly the main things when I do this tracker is to look for, the points of where he's solidifying control, and it's Department of Justice, the independent, justices and courts and Supreme Court, military. I mean, these are the things that, once he has full control over, goodbye,
yeah.
to us until the people rise up.
And then, of course, these foreign bribes that are happening, through crypto. That's just another brazen disregard for law and due process. Thank you very much, Olga Lautman, for being here again on the Trump Tyranny Tracker. Thanks for allowing me to be here, I should say.
So thank you for
We'll
doing this.
I love doing it because I get so much good information. I get to talk to you every day. So it's amazing. Monday to Thursdays, we'll do the Trump Tyranny Tracker here on Substack Live. And I'll be back at 3:00 with Dean Blundell for our 5-stack. But you should all subscribe to the Trump Tyranny Tracker. It's the best resource for finding out where Trump's authoritarian creep is happening. And it's happening in a lot of places. And it's happening, as Olga points out, right before our eyes. Thank you very much for being here. And we'll see you again tomorrow in TTT Live. Bye-bye.
Bye.